If you wanted to stop the global economy, you wouldn't need to invade a country. You wouldn't need to destroy an army. You wouldn't even need to launch thousands of missiles. Sometimes, all it takes is control of a single maritime choke point. A passage so small that it's barely visible on a map, yet so important that it can influence oil prices across the entire world. Today, as Iran and Israel once again exchange direct attacks, and missiles launched from Yemen target Israel, many analysts are asking one critical question. Could the Bab el-Mandeb and the Strait of Hormuz become the next battlegrounds of this crisis? And if they do, what price will the world pay? To answer that question, we need to step away from the headlines and look at the map, because this story, before it's about missiles, is about geography.
On June 7 and 8, 2026, Iran and Israel once again exchanged direct strikes. Reports indicated Iranian ballistic missile launches and Israeli retaliatory attacks against military targets inside Iran. At the same time, missiles launched by Yemen's Houthis targeted Israel, raising concerns that the conflict could spread further. But the most dangerous aspect of this crisis is not the attacks themselves. It's where they're happening. Because the Middle East sits on some of the most important energy and trade choke points on Earth. Let's start with one number that explains almost everything. Roughly 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. That means 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil consumed on Earth has traveled through this narrow waterway. Just imagine it, a small passage between Iran and Oman. Yet a huge portion of the world's energy supply depends on it. China depends on it. India depends on it. Japan depends on it. South Korea depends on it. And Europe depends on it indirectly. That's why every time the name Hormuz appears in the news, oil markets react almost immediately. But if Hormuz is the heart of global energy, Bab el-Mandeb is the lung of global trade. This strait is only about 26 to 32 kilometers wide. Just 26 kilometers, less than the distance from many cities to their suburbs. Yet this narrow passage connects Europe and Asia. Bab el-Mandeb forms the southern gateway to the Red Sea, and every ship that wants to reach the Suez Canal must first pass through it. Around 10% of global trade moves through this route. To put that into perspective, for every 10 shipping containers moving through global commerce, roughly 1 depends on this corridor. This is not just another waterway. It is one of the main arteries of the global economy. But why has Yemen become so important? Look at the map. Northern Yemen sits directly beside Bab el-Mandeb. That means any crisis in Yemen can affect one of the most important shipping routes on Earth. That's why shipping companies pay close attention to every development in the Red Sea. In many ways, they care more about geography than politics, because geography directly affects their profits and losses. In 2024, the world got a small preview of what that looks like. Attacks in the Red Sea forced many ships to change course. Some estimates showed vessel traffic through Bab el-Mandeb falling by more than 50%. Many companies were forced to bypass the Suez Canal and sail around the entire African continent. And that's exactly where costs begin to rise. Imagine a cargo ship traveling from China to Europe. Under normal circumstances, it passes through Bab el-Mandeb and the Suez Canal.
But if that route becomes unsafe, the ship must travel around the Cape of Good Hope in southern Africa. Thousands of extra kilometers, several additional days at sea, more fuel, higher crew costs, more expensive insurance,
and ultimately, higher prices for consumers. In other words, higher costs for ordinary people. But trade isn't the only concern. Energy is at risk as well. Around 12% of global seaborne oil trade passes through the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb. A significant share of global LNG trade also depends on this route. So if the crisis expands, it won't only affect oil markets. Natural gas markets could come under pressure as well. Now for the critical question. Could Bab el-Mandeb actually be closed? Technically, yes. In practice, extremely difficult. Because this route is vital to many global powers. The United States, the Gulf Arab states, India, and China. All of them have direct interests in keeping this waterway open. That's why most analysts believe that disruptions to shipping traffic are far more likely than a complete closure. But what about the United States? Will it enter the conflict? That's the question financial markets are watching most closely. The United States maintains tens of thousands of troops across the region, multiple military bases, warships, aircraft stationed in the Persian Gulf, and a broad network of regional allies. But Washington faces one major challenge: cost. The wars of the Middle East have cost trillions of dollars over the past 2 decades, and few leaders are eager to repeat that experience. As a result, America's primary objective is usually to contain the crisis, not to become directly involved, unless its forces or strategic interests are directly targeted. Now we arrive at the most important part: the future. 3 possible scenarios lie ahead. Scenario 1, and the most likely outcome. Controlled escalation. Attacks continue. Threats continue. But no side enters a full-scale war. This is the scenario most global powers prefer. Scenario 2. The crisis expands into the sea. In this scenario, attacks on shipping increase. Insurance costs rise, maritime trade becomes disrupted, and energy prices climb. Economically, this would be extremely costly, even without a direct war. And Scenario 3, the scenario everyone fears. Simultaneous disruption in both Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. If the world's 2 most important energy and trade choke points come under pressure at the same time, the resulting shock could spread far beyond the Middle East and become a truly global crisis. Not just for governments, but for ordinary people. For gasoline prices, for transportation costs, for consumer goods, and for the global economy itself. In the end, the greatest danger of this crisis may not be the missiles. It may be geography. Because in the Middle East, sometimes a 26-kilometer wide passage can affect the lives of billions of people. And right now, the world is waiting to see whether this crisis will end in the skies or spill into the seas.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss future documentaries and geopolitical breakdowns. Thanks for watching.